toughness to me. Well, no, this is gonna take a while. But toughness is if you're looking at just fighting, then that's only one aspect of it. It's like how do you make chili, right? You need beef, you need tomatoes, you need this, that, and the other thing. Okay, there's your chili. Though, can you make it any other way? Yeah. Well, there's limitless ways that you can make chili, right? So what's tough? Is it a fighter? That's part of it. Is it a guy that hits? Well, that's part of it. Okay, is a guy that sticks people? Well, that's part of it. Well, there's also mentally tough. There's emotional tough. There's toughness is a complete person. Like that's not the right word, but it encompasses a lot more than just physically tough.
That's right.
Because physically tough, there's an element of you that has to be mentally tough or a screw loose, and emotionally tough. Because to get into a hockey fight, let's say, there's a thought. Like you either snap and go, right? On a dime, you just do it. But there's still that. It's still you've had the fight or flight feeling, and that it'll fool you. Because if you think about that fight or flight, you'll flight. You'll get out of here. Because it's the same feeling of. It's just adrenaline, but it can pull you back, or it can push you forward. So, anyways, there's more to it than just being physically tough. So what does it mean to be a tough hockey player? Now, when I do this, I always think that there's someone or like let's say half the people watching are like non-violent, nice people, and then I think I should probably put a little bit of velvet on the sledgehammer so that I don't offend people. And then I'm also conscious of that there's younger players that are playing youth hockey, and I don't want to send the wrong message. So it's like, okay, I put the velvet on the sledgehammer again. And then the real side of me is I want to tell this is how it is. So I'm going to go more on that side, because if you're offended by this, then whatever.
Yeah.
Hockey is a tough game. It's tough. If you're not tough mentally, physically, emotionally, and there might be other ones, and have some type of tough, I guess physically, having a pain tolerance. If you don't have that, you're not ever going to be a hockey player. You just can't do it. There's a lot of ways that you're going to be tough, but hockey is hard. Hockey's tough. There's nothing easy about it when it's real. It's hard, man. So like, you need to be in tip-top shape. Just to do that, you have to be tough, because you got to get up and do it every day. That's just a toughness and persistence to do that every single day. So everything about it, you have an element of toughness. So you could say, well, Johnny Gaudreau is not a tough guy. Yeah, he is, because he's a small guy, smaller than everybody. He doesn't go out and fight, but he's battling in corners. He's not the biggest guy, but he has to get in shape, and he's mentally and emotionally strong.
He can handle it.
So I'm just saying that so that if anybody, so I don't get the message that you don't need, the tougher you are, the better. In every way.
Yeah, it's never worse to be tougher. Yeah.
The tougher you are, the better. Like if your skin is thick like a rhinoceros's, better than not. You know what I mean? I don't mean that physically. I mean so that nothing penetrates your emotions. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So the tougher you are, the better. So tough doesn't mean goon. Like I'm going to tell you what tough isn't. Tough does not mean goon, like you said. That's not what a tough guy is. Okay, that's tough to only a certain degree. It's tough but not valuable, except for like in maybe a small piece of the game. You still have to be able to play the game to be effective. So that's that. There's pretend tough and pretend tough. I see this more than not. Is I've got guys that play that they're you would think that they're going to be tough guys.
Yeah, seriously.
And tell me straight out. I'm not even strong, and I'm scared. Like I'll get shit pumped. It's like, but you don't walk around and that's how insecure they are. They give this persona like I'm a big tough kid, but they're actually scared shitless and they won't do it. So that's the pretend tough, right? And I'm not talking about just the fighting piece, but that's part. But so if they say that, then their mental makeup is not right. Right? True that?
Yeah, true that.
So that's pretend tough. Pretend tough players play hard sometimes. They play hard when they're physically superior to someone. They play hard when they're against weaker players or weaker teams. Then they're all ready to go. When it's a real hockey game, when they can match. That's what we talked about Mike Tyson.
I was just going to say that.
Right?
Mike Tyson.
It's like he won most of his fights because he was just a superior athlete, bigger, stronger, and better. Till he met someone his match, he never fought. And who am I to tell anybody that Mike Tyson's not a good fighter? But he didn't have that fight. Right?
When it's a true battle.
When it's a true battle.
Everything's equal,
right.
And it's just a battle of wills now.
That's right.
That's an actual fight.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. So that's pretending, right? Playing hard against weaker players, but once you get a real competition, you find a way to hide, or you just don't compete. You back down. It's kind of the same thing, but you back down to players that are bigger or better. So it's always funny, and you'll see this a lot of times. Guys that when they'll go after the smaller guy or the guy that they think can't defend themselves as well or take care of it, and they get picked on a little. They try to pick on those guys a little bit, and it's like they go up against someone that's bigger, stronger. They back off. They're not as aggressive. So you can see the pretend there all day, so let's take away the physical aspect of it. It's like if you're playing, let's just use the NHL right now. The best team is probably Tampa Bay. Okay, so and then the worst team in the NHL right now is Arizona. Let's say that, okay? So if you're a player that feasts on Arizona and Philadelphia and Montreal right now, those are your best games. But when you play Tampa, Florida, and New York Rangers, in Carolina, you're nowhere to be found. You're one of those players that, you're not a real competitor. Right, you got to show up to the games that count, the games that are real. And Arizona is not. I'm not saying they're shit, but in the NHL, you know what I mean. When you only want to play against the easy games, right? You get your 2-3 goals there and all that stuff. Pretending is the guys that don't take on the stressful situations well. Okay, so like you get into games where, so this is more of a mental tough thing, right? So you get into playoff series or big games or tight games, extremely hard games, and you get overwhelmed by the situation. That's not tough. That means you're mentally weak now. You pick and choose when to compete. That's kind of what I said before. Love the easy games. Another side of it is that you don't take criticism from your coach or coaching well.
That's
right?
a good one.
So what does that have to do with toughness? Well, if the coach gives it to you because you had a bad play, and if you buckle and you can't play anymore, that's a mental weakness, right? So that's another side of it. You get mentally frustrated, right, when things don't go your way, or overwhelmed again. You whine and you bitch and moan when things don't go your way. Now, the last thing I want to say before we move on to a little bit more is, from the physical side, there's a big difference between being dirty and being tough.
Oh, yeah.
Big difference. And a lot of the times you see little chicken shit guys be the dirty ones and then run away. And then, so what do you do in a situation like that, right? It's you kind of got to eat shit a little bit. Like, you can beat the piss out of them if you want to, like at the higher levels, but don't get confused of what is tough and what's dirty.
Right.
Yep. So going around and running someone from behind or punching someone in the face and hiding behind the ref, that's not tough.
Right.
That's pretending.
Yeah.
So go ahead. You jump in.
Yeah. Here's just a couple terms that encompass toughness for me. This is what I would say just from the examples you gave again. So ability to compete, and that's whether you're in a big game or a meaningless game. And this was something that I think my coach used to think about me, which I didn't like, and I didn't get along with my last coach in junior, is I think he thought that about me, that when the games were big, I wasn't as effective.
Really?
Yeah, which was weird because I was always like a pretty good performer, especially in the playoffs. Yeah. I normally like turned it on pretty good in the playoffs, but I digress.
Sometimes there's a personality conflict.
Yeah, it was more of that, but I think he thought that about me. That was the vibe that I got from him, which is not a good thing to have. You don't want people to think that you don't compete when it's a tough game. So that's one. Doing the hard things is another one. So this is like shot blocks, hits, stuff like that. Like one of the toughest guys I ever played with, my buddy that climbs trees that I told you about. Yeah. One of the toughest guys I've ever played with. And he was 5'8", 5'9", maybe 5'10", who knows. He wasn't a big guy.
obviously.
And he was about probably 170 and just peeled to the bone. And one of those guys where you hit him and you feel like you broke your ribs when you hit him. He would always engage first on the hits, which was it was just made it brutal to play against. Somebody played hard in the corners. He played hard, would eat shots, would lay guys out. Never fought. I don't think I ever saw him fight once. So that's another
hard guy to play against.
Yeah, like Patrice Bergeron. Would you say he's not tough because he doesn't ever fight? No, he's nails, man. Yep. He's nails. So that's another one. Basically, the mental side of it, I'm calling that resiliency. So whether that's you get frustrated during the game, your coach yelled at you, whatever mental thing you want to throw in there, that just resiliency, being able to bounce back. That's another element of being tough. Obviously, there's the physical element, which is able to fight, able to hit, and that bit of guys don't want to go against you in the corner because they know it's going to be a battle. Played with a few guys that were like that. Actually, one guy that sticks out in my head, he was a 5th round pick to Sarnia that I played against. And he was one of those guys where it wasn't like he wouldn't come blow you up, but it's just he would just out battle you all over the ice, hard on his stick, like couldn't get him off the puck, like that kind of guy. So there's a bit of that. And then another element of toughness, which you didn't directly mention, was just being disciplined, like being able to follow. Yeah, like being able to follow, what you're supposed to be doing, even when you don't want to. And that goes for at the rink and off the ice too. Like being able to keep yourself in order away from the ice, whether it's with training or recovery or nutrition or whatever. That's an element of toughness too. Just a guy that, and everyone respects that guy, the guy that's just dialed in, and you just, no matter where he is, he just has that presence about him, that he's got all his shit together in a line. Like that's a great thing to have. And that's another element of being tough. Then to your last point about the tough versus dirty thing, because I remember this was something I didn't think about too much when I played, but there were guys that I would play with that I would be a little bit scared of because they were dirty, not because they were tough.
Played against or what?
That I played against.
Okay.
So there'd be guys on certain teams where I know if I go in the corner with this guy, I'm not scared of him hitting me.
Anything goes.
I'm scared of him putting his thumb in my eye or whacking me on the back of the knee or stepping on my laces or this kind of shit. Yeah. And those guys, it wasn't respect that those guys got. Yeah. It was like, I don't want to go near you because you're a lunatic. Yeah. It's like, you shouldn't be on this ice. Like, you shouldn't be out here.
But it's different if that person's dirty but tough and plays.
That's right.
Yeah. Like you get a dumb, I can't use the F word. Yeah. Close though. Yeah. Yeah. You play against a dummy. That's just, you're just playing against a dummy.
Well, and those are the guys
I appreciate a guy. You never like it.
No.
But this is what makes a guy tough. Like if you're going to hit a guy and he gives you an elbow in the chops at the same time, but he's playing hard and he's not backing down when you play against him, I can handle that. Right. That's just part of the deal.
And that's different. That's different, part of the deal. But if you're just the little rat that runs around and you're trying to cross-check guys in the back of the lower back, just above the pants, or you're always looking for that little cheap thing, and then you float away and you shy away in the corners, you don't want to engage ever, you won't fight ever, this kind of guy, then it's not the same respect in terms of the toughness department with the guys like that. So just that was a good point to end on with that. I wanted to highlight that one again.
I remember playing several guys, but one guy in particular played for the London Knights when I played junior, and he was about 6'3". He looked like actually very, very similar to Corey Perry and similar player.
Oh yeah.
And if you went in a corner with him, he had elbows. You were getting an elbow. And it wasn't, I don't even know if he did it on purpose. It was just like a pain. So this is a toughness thing. A pain in the ass to play against because he was good. Wasn't great. No. He was good. He was actually drafted Pittsburgh. He was good, but it was like, he wasn't like a guy that, when you play against, he looked sloppy, if you know what I mean.
Yep, I know exactly.
But every time you go into a battle with him, it was like, you'd have a bloody lip or every single time. And so for me, it was like, okay, you're going back because you've done this 4 times, 5 times, 3 games, 26 times or whatever. It's like the toughest part is keep going back anyways. It's not about having to fight them, but it's also about never just staying your ground.
Yeah.
Because the day that you say, well, I'm not going in there because I don't feel like an elbow in the chops, you're not tough.